The opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and are not those of WSTU. WSTU does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU. The phone lines are open. Call in with your questions and comments at 220-9788. That's 220-WSTU. It's time for Stuart Laser Talk with your host, Dr. Tred J. Rizacker.
I'm 5'10" and 242 pounds.
I always say this is the biggest I'm ever going to be, and I said that like 20 pounds ago.
A third of Americans are obese, another third is overweight.
Obesity is the biggest threat to the health, welfare, and future of this country.
I've always been overweight.
I've got diabetes,
Sleep apnea, heart disease.
everything's hurting now.
It's a lot easier to lose weight than it is to keep weight off.
This is probably going to be the first generation of children who are going to have a shorter life expectancy than their parents.
18% of our children right now are obese.
It's not only health, it's about survival and well-being of the United States as a nation.
You don't crave broccoli, and our generation has grown up craving a Big Mac.
I want to think that there's something better for me.
Unless we're able to control this epidemic, we're going to have an abundance of chronic disease.
All of us have to be part of the solution to reduce obesity.
The weight of the nation is out of control, but we can fix that.
If we don't now take this as a really urgent national priority, we are all going to pay a really serious price.
Obesity will crush the United States in oblivion.
Good morning, Stuart, Florida. Good morning, Treasure Coast. My name is Dr. Tred Rizacker, and I am your host here for the next hour on my Slim Body Laser Spa Health and Wellness Show. Hey, I appreciate the likes and I appreciate the shares, although this is Facebook live, but it's also a live radio program. And if you want to tell other people about the program, I'd sure appreciate that. We are here every single Tuesday from 9 to 10 o'clock on WSTU, and also on our sister station, WPSL, Thursdays, 1590 from 11 to 12 o'clock. Right now, we're doing a simulcast because I have to get my butt into Fort Pierce and do the live radio. So I do the recorded show from today, but I promise when everything gets better and I'm allowed to drive again, no, I'm allowed to drive. I'm only kidding. We'll get there and do two live programs, but right now it's one live and one recorded. But the information is straight out of my heart, and there's nothing that's more pure and truthful than my heart when I get in here and do this. I am a licensed doctor of chiropractic. I've been in practice for 33 years. If you don't know what a chiropractor is, you've been living under a rock somewhere. Chiropractic profession is the second largest healthcare profession besides medicine. And our philosophy deals with the anatomy and the function and the design of your spinal column, of your neck and your back. And under the realization that spinal health is as important as dental health, it's as important as mental health, it's as important as physical health. You know, you can't ignore the health of your spine. And that would be that backbone that stretches from the top of your skull right down to your tailbone. It protects and controls all of the nerves and all of the information that travels from the brain to the body and from the body back to the brain. It's an information superhighway of information that travels from your brain to the tissues, to the organs, to the systems of the body, to your heart, your lungs, your kidneys, your spleen, your colon, your feet, your sexual organs. It's all run and controlled by the brain. And the brain is connected to those tissues, organs, systems, heart, lungs, kidneys, spleen, pancreas, sexual organs, feet. It's connected by spinal nerves, by these delicate nerve fibers. Now, a nerve fiber can be as thin as a piece of hair. It can be as thick as a pencil, such as the sciatic nerve. The sciatic nerve is as big as a pencil. When it gets pinched, it's devastating. Think of how much a toothache hurts. The nerve which feeds the part of your lower jaw or your upper teeth, that nerve is the thickness of a piece of thin thread. And when that nerve gets irritated, think of the pain and the throbbing that happens with a toothache. Well, your sciatic nerve, the nerve that exits between L5 and S1 in your lower back, and L4 and L3 and L2 all the way up the spine, it's called the lumbosacral plexus. Those nerves are as big around as a pencil, and that nerve can get crushed, just like in your mouth. And the pain is absolutely devastating. And somebody's got to help people with that, right? And chiropractors were developed over about 130, 140 years ago in the late 1800s, basically, as a result of everyone was ignoring back problems and ignoring the spinal column. Medicine didn't treat it properly. They were not helping people with it. So chiropractic developed as a result. It's kind of like living in a world without dentistry, without anybody to take care of your teeth, and medicine ignored that dentistry and tooth problems can be health problems. So they just ignored it. And when they told you it was dental, they told you you're making it up and, it's not true. And all of a sudden another profession comes along and says, we'll take care of the mouth, right? We'll call ourselves dentists. And the medical profession said, well, as long as you're not treating disease, we're okay with it. You can have a limited specialty, and that would be within somebody's mouth. And that's how dentistry, was formed, this special specialty. Chiropractic is the same situation. For years and years, people ignored spinal alignment and spinal health problems unless they were severe, debilitating, something you'd end up in the hospital for with the rods in your back and serious surgery, slipped discs and fractured vertebrae. I mean, that's always been where people have gone to the doctors with their backs. However, what they're starting to find is that repetitive motion traumas, things you do every single day, it's the little falls and the little injuries or the habits that we have over time that can lead to some pretty serious spinal health problems. A great example would be holding a phone between your shoulder and your head, talking all the time. So, instead of having a handset or a headset, 20 years ago, they didn't have too many headsets. They were rare. And now everybody seems to have a handset and a headset. But they used to hold the phone between their shoulder and their head, and they would talk. And then eventually they would develop this horrible neck problem from the bones migrating out of position. And then they start to irritate those nerves. And then those nerves start to send messages in pain. And it's a serious problem. The cause was from the holding of the phone, pinching it between the shoulder and the ear all the time. That created this weakness in the spine. The vertebra, C6 cervical, shifts, moves a little bit out of its normal relationship between the one above and below, and that closes off the opening where the nerve comes out. And as a result of that, that nerve starts to ache. It starts to send messages and pain messages down into your arm, into your hand, maybe into your shoulder. And you'll think that somebody dropped a rock on your hand, that maybe you fell out on your hand because your hand hurts so much. It's really coming from the spine, from the neck. And that would be a cervical brachial syndrome. And that's something that medicine, except for physical therapy, fails miserably in treating. Physical therapy helps because they strengthen, they do exercises, they can treat some of the symptoms. They can treat some of the swelling and the pain, but they don't fix the underlying problem, which is why it persists once you leave the therapy. It comes back. And because a chiropractor can work on the alignment and correct alignment very specifically, demonstrable on x-ray and post-examinations that the spine has been corrected, and then the symptoms that relate to that just go away. They heal themselves. That's what a chiropractor does. And at the same time, our privy of influence, where we're allowed to influence people, is also in nutrition, in wellness, in food choices, in exercise, in, of course, other modalities to help people to feel better, using light therapies, using electrical modalities, using traction tables to stretch and separate the vertebra. As you know, with all of these big traction tables, these DRX, and they call them spinal decompression, that seems to have fallen under the guide of chiropractors. That used to be very available in physical therapy and in hospitals. That was the standard procedure if you hurt your back when you were, 30 years ago, as you were in hospital for 2 weeks in traction. Now they have these computer decompression tables, which are literally a traction table. It stretches you apart, but they're set up so that you can tweak and move the table in a way that it's more specific for disc herniations. So a disc herniation is when two vertebrae come together and they put pressure between them, and the disc between the two vertebrae slips. It moves out of place. And when it does, it bulges on one side or the other. And that bulge typically involves a nerve root or a plexus of nerves, which feeds the body. And so that disc herniation can create an enormous amount of pain in the area that's being irritated by those nerves. And it's either a left herniation or a right herniation or a central herniation. The protrusion of the disc is very specific. So the way these decompression tables work, and I'm sure you've heard of them, and maybe some of you have experienced decompression, is they determine with an MRI, usually, which way the bulge is producing, which way the bulge is bulging, right? So if it's bulging to the right side, then the traction table is designed to pull and open up the right side, not the left side. Basically, you can specifically target the disc herniations with a decompression table. And then what it does is it goes through a series of tugs. It tugs you. Basically, you lay on your back and they put a belt around your waist and one around your upper chest. And then what it does is as it flexes left and right and can twist a little bit based on your specific findings, it can help heal that disc matter, that tissue. When it gets pulled apart, some of the nutrition comes back into the cell and it starts to repair the disc. That's how decompression works. Compression, which is standing, is something which creates the disc to bulge, creates the disc to swell. When you get the weight off the body, now you can help with decompression. You can help to influence and hopefully heal those disc pieces which are being irritated. So that's kind of how spinal decompression works. It's something which is absolutely should be tried before surgery. So if you're having back problems and your nerve is pinched and you have a disc herniation in your neck or in your lower back, and it is affecting the muscle strength, in other words, your arm is weak, it's atrophied, it's starting to lose some of its muscular strength. Maybe the low back problem, the disc herniation, is creating a muscle, a calf muscle, which is smaller than it should be. You're having foot drop. Maybe there's some bowel or bladder changes, can't hold your urine or some bowel issues where you can't go to the bathroom. These are serious problems that need medical intervention right away. You want to make sure that you're at either a good chiropractor that can refer for these types of situations, because when somebody's back problem turns into a muscle weakness and reflexes start to dampen, the reflexes aren't as active, and a person starts to have either any bowel or bladder changes associated with the lower back or a neck problem, those are warning signs to chiropractors that this is a much more serious problem than probably a chiropractor can handle. You need to be working in it with a team, orthopedic, neurological, and chiropractic. So let's just get that up front now. I don't even know why I talked about this. I'm doing laser assisted weight loss, but I'm passionate about health and wellness. So I had some questions on some emails that came through. Could you explain a little bit about decompression? And that's why I did that. I explained, I hope that you tuned in on that. But my real message here today is one of common sense. So this is important. Pay attention to this. Unless you've been living it like a hermit under a rock somewhere, you know all about the pandemic. You've been educated and oriented as to the severity of what COVID is, how it's transmitted, what has to be done to get rid of it according to their opinion, which is one-sided. It's very myopic, meaning, the medical opinion about a disease is medical treatment. And if the only problem, there's an old saying, if the only tool you have in your bag is a hammer, then every problem is a nail. Okay. And medicine opinion about COVID and about what you need to do is very different than a lot of other doctors might believe. In medicine, not every medical doctor believes the same thing. So, I'm a chiropractor, so I deal with things natural. And what I'm starting to understand about COVID and about the pandemic, and I think a lot of you are hearing this and watching this, but don't believe it could be possible. I remember when Trump was running for president, and he made some very bold statements that shocked people, like the people that came across the border were criminals, things like that, and a lot of what he said was true, but a lot of it, people weren't talking about. Yet there he was standing up in front of it and saying exactly what we're thinking in our mind. In other words, you don't know everyone that's coming across the border. There's no way to know that every person is really somebody looking for an honest person looking for a leg up. There's a lot of criminals that'll come across the border too. And he called it out. He said it in front of everybody. And right or wrong, it was what needed to be said. And, because the narrative, what you're reading and what you're seeing, if the only information you get comes from the internet and comes from TV or comes from other, news media outlets, it's all very myopically slanted in their direction of what they want you to believe to be true. And there's obvious, I think most people understand that, but we're still entertained by it. That's why we watch it, even though we know it's probably not true. So I am going to level with you a little bit here on what I think is happening as a result of the pandemic and what you can do today to protect yourself, to defend your sanctity, meaning your personal body. The Me Too movement had a lot to do with, hey, my body, my choice, right? My body, my right, my choice. You can't invade and come into that space. And there was an enormous push for that privacy. And all of a sudden it was all thrown out the window when COVID came around. Now it's no longer your body, your privacy. Now we're going to inject some kind of, gene therapy editing tool into your bloodstream. And for the rest of your life, you're going to make spike proteins, because that's what this vaccination does. It makes spike proteins. It gives you the COVID. That's right. It gives you the spike protein. It doesn't give you COVID. It gives you the spike protein. So just to understand the virus, the COVID is a cold virus. It's a rhinovirus, which is very common, and a lot of people have them. We've all had the colds, but they've never turned into this horribly, virulent, super lethal cold. Most people get a cold and they make a mess with tissues, and they have snot coming out of their face for a couple of days to a week or two. And they take some over-the-counter stuff and they're good. Something changed with this. This is has a different virulency, a different ability to make you sick, more than a cold virus. So their opinion, and it's not my opinion, but the rhetoric is stating that the rhinovirus mutated or changed somehow, and to form this thing called a spike protein, this COVID-19 spike. And I'm sure you've seen the videos and all the images of these, looks like an earth with all these spikes on it. Well, those are the spike proteins. And underneath that, the ball, the earth that the spike protein is sticking out is simply a corona backbone of a coronavirus. It doesn't mean that it's going to make you sick. It's that spike protein which is irritating and creating all the problems in our body. The spike protein, it bonds with the ACE2 inhibitors. Now, these are receptors that are really prevalent in all different parts of our body, but they're super prevalent in the lung tissue, in your chest, how you breathe. So that's why COVID attacks the respiratory tissue, because of those ACE2 receptors are affected by these spike proteins. And the spike proteins go to all different areas of the body. They're not just associated with the lungs. They can get into the heart tissue, into the blood, into the endothelial, your blood vessels. And this is what's leading to this microcirculatory bleeding. You've heard about this myocarditis, and people that have been infected with COVID-19 are having these bleeding episodes. This is one of the effects of a spike protein. It goes in and it shreds the endothelial lining and can create microscopic bleeding, which you can't see on a physical exam, but you can see it on a electron microscope. You can see it on a small, but you can't see it largely, so people miss it. And it's the spike protein that's making us sick. So here's what they've done with the what they call a vaccination, with Moderna and this Pfizer and this other company. They have isolated the spike protein from the COVID, according to them. And they're able to take that spike protein, just the protein, the spike, and they're able to use technology to embed that in a virus that they then inject into you. So they were able to take the spike protein from the COVID, the part that makes you sick, by the way, the part which makes you ill, and then they're putting it into another viral vector, which is a package, which when injected into you goes into the cells, and the cells of your body start to manufacture that spike protein. Think about that. So they took a cold virus, which is almost non-lethal at all. The one that's lethal has these spike proteins. They figured out that. So they've isolated the proteins, cleaved them away from the molecule, put it into a viral vector, and then call it a vaccination, and then shoot it into as many people as they possibly can. It seems to me. It's 150 million or something have already had the vaccination. It hasn't even been around for 8 months. And it's not a vaccination. It's a gene editing tool. It's putting into your cells the ability to make these spike proteins. Now, that spike protein, when your body starts to manufacture it, the theory is that you're good, because now your body has been challenged by the shot which gave you the spike protein, and now your body is ready even when it detects the COVID spike proteins. So, in other words, it's kind of like a warmer up, getting warmed up for the game. Your baseball players are going to do a lot better if they've had a few practice hits before the big show. That's kind of the theory behind these shots. And here's the horrible truth. Is that some people don't need the shot. They have an excellent immune system. Some do, but shouldn't get it because their immune systems are so compromised. And some people, when they get the gene editing shot, which is the mRNA shot, those spike proteins proliferate like crazy. Not on everybody, but there's a few that will have spike protein influxes into their heart tissue, into their lungs, into their ovaries, into their whole body. And pathology is starting to show that. Now, these are the side effects, these unseen, they say it's safe and effective, but these are the 3%. And my concern is really twofold. One is that I don't think that this came out by accident. I believe that there's an agenda in the world, that there's just too many of us. Yeah, imagine that. Beautiful human beings that love and can care for each other, that for some reason there's too many of us. And there's an agenda to lessen the amount of people. And what better way than a virus? No coincidence it came out of China. It's no coincidence that it's never been shown on a lab to be to be truthful as far as the whole gene sequence itself. As a doctor, I know what that means. That just means that the Koch postulates, which is how we determine virulent germs and bacteria for centuries. It's called Dr. Koch's postulates. There's 4 steps that have to be related before something can be considered a human creating disease. And the COVID never followed into those 4 Koch postulates. They ignored it. So it leads me very suspect that possibly there's another agenda behind it. So knowing that we don't know, right? Knowing that we don't know, but like I told my friend who says, you're why do you have to say these things? Why are you making this up? I said, because I said, something's wrong. My BS meter, my internal clock, which tells me right and wrong, is just going off full time. Beep, 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 beep. It's beeping. It's telling me, look out, beware, ask questions. Don't do the first thing that comes to you. Take time. Give it a little more time. I mean, this is my BS meter is just going off like crazy over this. So it's a little bit like being poisoned in your environment. If you lived in an environment that was consistently producing cytotoxins that were making you sick, right? Which our environment does. So I'm talking about our existing environment. And the environment was so full of these toxins that in order to make the environment work, that you cannot avoid them. In other words, living is going to expose you to them. So wouldn't it be smart to do something that would help you to recover, to not be vulnerable to that toxin? In other words, clean your sink, clean your body out, clean your mechanism, because poisons accumulate over time. You don't just get one shot. If you get one shot and it's high enough to kill you, it will kill you, obviously. But what happens is these are persistent organic compounds, of one of which is medicine. Medicines is being injected and put into us, and it's a chemical. So what I think is happening is I think that this pandemic was weaponized to take out the people that are vulnerable, to take out those who they believe in some way are not worth being here with us. They call them useless eaters. And if you don't think that that's possibly true, then you haven't been really listening and following the science with this, because they changed their minds so much. They're making so many different changes. Mask mandates are not constitutionally allowed. I mean, the president can get up there and say, "Hey, I'm gonna walk over this, and I'm gonna run you down with these rules and these things," but he doesn't make laws. Laws are made by the government body, by the other parts of the government, not the executive branch. The executive branch is there to follow the rules that the Congress and the Senate puts down on them. He can't create his own laws and rules, but they do. And it seems that it's an agenda to take out our parents, people with pre-existing conditions, people with diabetes, people with, immune system issues, people that aren't able to function properly. These are the most vulnerable. The people that live in our area in Stewart that were listening to this show are not the vulnerable population here. Okay. If you lived in Thailand, or if you lived in somewhere in Africa, you would realize that you are the vulnerable population. We have an ability to take vitamins and minerals. We can go to naturopathic doctors and make choices. We can actually claim religious exemption and medical reasons not to be immunized. Most countries, they don't have that. We are very, very fortunate when it comes to that. Okay. And here's my message here. I am not trying to share some kind of conspiracy theory here. I'm just being very honest. And that is that if you are not as healthy as you can be, if you're not working on lessening body fat, if you have too much body fat, you got to get it down, because that is a comorbidity. That is a leading risk factor for dying if you were to get infected with COVID, is weight. I watched a guy yesterday, and he, he was a male, about, I would say he was in his early 20s. He had to have been 350 pounds, short, not very tall, morbidly obese. So let's be upfront about it. And big burly guy. And he had over his face, he had a mask, and then he had a double mask underneath it, because of course they're telling you to put 2 masks on. Now, this guy was easy 50% body fat. His main risk factor of dying from COVID is the fact that he cannot take a deep breath. He can't expel the oxygen from his lungs because he has so much body fat. And that's one of the risk factors. It's a respiratory syndrome. It preys on your it preys on your lungs first. That's where it goes in. And your lungs have the ability to expel things, to cough it out, to spit. That's why they want to mask everybody, because that's one way you get rid of toxins, is through your breath and through your mouth. But this guy, this person I observed, was literally breathing in the same oxygen he had just breathed out. And if he was to have a little irritation, like a little something to cause his body to want to expel it, he's not going to cough through that mask. And thus it's going to stay in there. It's going to fester. And over time, I think it leaves a person at a much higher risk of getting COVID because they're wearing a mask, especially when you're overweight like that. And, I'm a doctor. I'm allowed to have that opinion. I didn't make it up. I didn't read it on somebody else's website. It's from my own knowledge and background and working with thousands and thousands of people over 33 years. You cannot mask people and expect them to be healthy. Masking is for sick people. It's to isolate. If you're sick, wear a mask. Don't go out. Wait until your flu passes. Most people are only virulent, can only pass a flu or bacteria for only like 2 or 3 days tops when they first get sick. It's rare for that to be something that goes for a week or two. In fact, there's no proof that it's ever gone that long. Yet they're saying that COVID can be in a healthy person and make someone else sick. And there's very little proof in that one. So use that. There's a lot of ideas and beliefs that are coming up that just don't have much merit except to control people. And the way that you can bust out of this, the way that you can release yourself from this tyranny, is to be healthy, is for them to look at you and say, oh, there's nothing I can do for this guy. He's going to live to be 100 years old. Look at him. He's got low body fat. He exercises. He doesn't take drugs or alcohol, takes care of his health. If he was smoking, he stopped. And that's what I wish for all of you out there. I am not here to bash what's happening. I am here to tell you that you need to get out and do something. Today is the day. Time, like I tell my staff, this is something we train on. When people call up and they're saying, well, I'm going to call back, I tell them, explain to them that time is not your friend. Okay. When it comes to COVID and it comes to getting rid of body fat and making yourself healthier, time is not your friend. If you're not actively doing something to take better care of your health, if you're not making these choices every day, you're going the other way, which is to be sicker, not healthier. It's really in your ballpark. And my big concern and my big criticism of medicine is that we give them way too much power over our life to think that a vaccination is all you're going to need to be able to cruise through this world without any problem. And that is so not true. In fact, the vaccination weakens you, which it's known to do that. Treats the one problem, but weakens other areas. And for that reason, please take advantage of the gyms, take advantage of doing an inner cleanse diet, do an inner clean diet, which we practice in my practice. Stop looking at everything that goes into your mouth. If you're not taking vitamins and supplements and minerals, you are at a higher risk of getting sick from COVID. That's proven. And, I'm talking, it still amazes me when I talk to people and they don't take any vitamins or minerals or supplements. And yet we know that people that take supplements get enough sunlight, drink enough fresh water, maintain low body fat, exercise regularly, are much less likely to die if they were to get COVID or to be sick. Yet we would rather wait, not exercise, not change our habits, and pray for the vaccination to keep us healthy in some way. And that's a fool's errand. It does not make you healthy. Only thing that makes you healthy is doing things that make you healthy, such as the things you probably know to do. So here is my list to be healthy. My name is Dr. Tread Rissacker. I'm a doctor of chiropractic, and I own a company called the Slim Body Laser Spa. We're located on East Ocean Boulevard, 2311 Southeast Ocean. I'm using a non-invasive lipo laser to get rid of body fat while you lie on your back and listen to music. There's no diet and there's no exercise necessary. What was that? Let me repeat that. I am using an FDA-cleared low-level laser lipo, which is available to anyone to come in and use here in Florida, Stuart, Florida. And you can lose 3 to 9 inches of stubborn fat while you lie on your back and listen to music, text your friends, take a nap. It's a laser. It doesn't require you to be awake or to even be aware of what it's doing. It's something which is incredible how well it works. I love that. What you're watching there, Evan. Where he walks through. Yeah. Somebody has to call. Anyway, so it's just incredible that, please, at the Slim Body Laser Spa, we're lessening body fat. We're helping you get off the meds, scientifically, properly. I can't tell you not to take meds, but I can sure teach you about the meds and what, ways you can help yourself go to your doctor and get off of them. And also something called detoxification. And detoxification is the action of using herbs, sweating, infrared saunas, infrared device like the laser, whole body vibration, to over time to help lessen your toxic burden, to lessen the poisons in your body, the chemicals that have accumulated, which make you vulnerable to getting sick and make you vulnerable to things like COVID. And since we can't ignore all of the toxins in our environment, we must have a regular, every 3 months to 6 month process where we do a little detoxification. And for me, my detoxification is every 6 months, I do an inner clean diet. Every 6 months, I do that. I'm holding it up in front of the Facebook Live so you can see it. It's called an inner clean diet. And an inner clean diet is a 6-day diet to remove toxins from the body. When an automobile is full of carbon, it has no pep. It is clogged up, right? It's full of carbon. Your car is full of carbon. You may put the very best gas and oil in, but the speed is not there. The sensible and logical thing to do is to take care of the car, take it to a mechanic, and have the carbon cleaned out. After that is done, what happens? The car seems like new. There's plenty of power. Your body is comparable to the car. When the cells, of which you have millions, well, trillions of cells, are clogged up with acid, sugar, mucus, and pus, you have no pep. Your appetite is poor. You do not sleep well. Your complexion is bad. Your eyes are dull. You suffer from aches and pains. You are nervous and irritable. In fact, you feel indifferent. Everything seems wrong. Life is not as nice as it once was. In fact, you are really ill. Now, combine that with being exposed to some kind of germ warfare when you're already have no pep, your appetite is down, you're not sleeping well, your complexion is bad, your eyes are dull, you have aches and pains, you're nervous, you're irritable, and you don't think that a virus, a man-made weapon could take you out? Heck yeah, it could. Because you're already halfway there. Take somebody else who's full of pep, who eats the right food, who sleeps excellently, whose complexion is good. Their eyes are full of energy and life. They have no aches and pains. They are very calm and balanced. They feel connected to the world. Is that person going to be vulnerable to getting infected if they were to be exposed? Probably not. They're so positive. And then you have the other one. So toxins over time accumulate in the body and they make you sick. And when they make you sick, you start to think that life sucks. Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't use that word. That life is not really great. And you want to and you need some help. Inner clean diet. That's one way of doing it. And it makes a lot of sense. The sensible and logical thing to do is to clean out your body, not just your bowels, but the cells. You purge these cells, get out all the accumulated toxic material. But how? I have this. It's called an inner clean diet. It will do it every time. I have done this diet myself. I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 times. Sometimes it's perfect. Sometimes it's close, but I always go back to it. I've given it to hundreds and hundreds of people as a doctor who have gotten some great results from it. So here's what it is. It is a feast, not a fast. For 6 days, you'll be on a feast, not a fast. You'll be filling your body with nature's life-giving foods, fruits and vegetables that contain all those precious vitamins and minerals. When a sufficient amount of these live substances reaches the cells of your body, there will be a flushing and a cleansing such as you have never experienced before. You will eliminate toxic material that has been with you for years. Persistent organic compounds. This toxic material that has robbed you of your vitality. When this is all cleaned out, you will be like the car that has been cleaned of the carbon. You will have plenty of energy. Your complexion will undergo a marvelous transformation. You will sleep like a baby. Aches and pains will disappear. Your nerves will be at ease, and you will feel so good that life will be a joy. This is what the inner clean diet will do. Follow the directions carefully. Now, I would much rather go against the most virulent virus in the world's history, which is what they're claiming it is, feeling like I just had all of my carbon cleaned out, that I have plenty of energy. I'd like to go against this pandemic after being able to, every day I sleep like a baby. I have no aches and pains. My nerves are at ease. I'm peaceful. I'm good. Life is a joy. I think you have a much better chance of surviving a COVID problem if you feel positive, happy, healthy, and you're healthy inside, than somebody who has no energy, his appetite's terrible, who doesn't sleep well, their complexion's bad, their eyes are dull, you suffer from aches and pains, everything seems wrong, life is not you're just waiting to die. And that's what COVID does. It's the Grim Reaper. But it doesn't reap everybody. There are people that are absolutely 100% will not get it. And this is one of the factors, one of the foundations is detoxification. All right. I think I've hammered that point home to you. If you'd like to know more about what's in the diet, you're more than welcome to send a email out to my office. It's slimbodylaserspa@gmail.com. You can also go to our contact page on slimbodylaserspa.com and click on the contact that you'd like some information on the Interclean diet. I offer these as a service in my office. I don't give away these pamphlets, but we can make exceptions for people. You just let me know. I just want to be helpful to you. Okay. All right. So, God, I know I sound like Debbie Downer, huh? Nobody likes Debbie Downer, but here's a summary. We are in a pandemic, a self-proclaimed pandemic by the World Health Organization and the UN. And this virus is definitely creating havoc in our whole world right now. And there's enough suffering going on that we're very concerned and scared, and you should be. Yet their whole message of what to do about this is to get into being vaccinated. And it's not even vaccinated. It's a gene therapy tool. It's gene editing. It's not even a vaccination. And that's their push. That's the agenda. If you don't see that, if you don't believe that, you don't have the eyes to see or the ears to hear. You've been, you got stuff stuffed in your ears and you got these glasses on that you're not seeing this, that this whole agenda is moving with the fear of a disease, the fear of making other people sick, the fear of dying soon, to move you into accepting this shot, this jab. And it's time to get up and say something about it and say, hey, listen, it's not for everybody. I promise you. Jabs and vaccinations help some, and they don't help everybody. And how do you know if you're the one that's not going to get it? You don't know. And when you talk to the doctors and the medical professionals, you know what they tell you? And they do it in sports. Take one for the team. How do you like that? I like that. Right? What does that mean in sports? I like that. That means get out there. I was trying out. I was in baseball. I was young. I don't like to get hurt. I just don't. It's me. What can I say? So that ball was flying towards me. And as it was coming, I stepped out of the way and I tried to scoop it with my glove as it came past. Of course, I missed it. And the run scored. And the coach came running out there. He goes, "What are you doing? You got to get in front of the ball and stop it." I said, "Yeah, but if I miss it with my glove, it's going to hit me." And he says, "That's exactly the point, Tret." He says, "You got to stop the ball, even if it means putting your body in front of it." And he looks at me and he goes, "Sometimes you have to take one for the team, Tred." Boy, I got that. I quit that day. That was the last day I played baseball. Take one for the team? Take a shot in the face with a ball? Not going to happen. So, when you read about these vaccination side effects, these horrendous deaths and things, everybody sees it. Just because it's not on CNN doesn't mean it's not happening. When they asked the person said, "You know what? I believed that the world needs this, so I took it. And if I'm going to get sick from it, then that's what I need to do because people need the vaccine." In other words, take one for the team. I'm not okay with that. I don't believe in the team. If I believe the team needed me to take one, I would, right? I'd give my life for this country. Absolutely. But I'm not going to give it for no reason. And I'm not going to take one for the team. Everybody comes into life with different skills. Everybody comes in with a different immune response. Your history, how you were raised, whether you were breastfed. There's a lot of factors that come into play with what it takes to have a strong immune system. I'm addressing the number one cause, which is toxins, which are creating poisons and buildup of tissue and affecting your immune system. Toxins are easy to get rid of. You can do this at the Slim Body Spa. We can help you get rid of poisons and toxins in your life. And, you'll have a better shot at being healthy even when this thing comes around, comes a knocking at your door. So I also want to put a real quick shout out that natural immunity is hugely the most important immunity you'll ever have. That, the way to you really want to be healthy is to be naturally exposed to something and allow your body to go through the process of developing an immune response to that. But if you're sick to start with, then you might not survive the initial shot or the initial infection. I know. Be healthy, please, you guys. Get under chiropractic care. Get your body fat down. We're one part of it at the Slim Body Laser Spa. I can help you. I'll sit down with you, teach you about it. You can ask me questions. I just want to be helpful. My phone number is 772-223-5885. My name is Dr. Tred Rissacker. It's called the Slim Body Laser Spa. I'm located on East Ocean Boulevard across the street from the Fresh Market. Give us a call. I'm going to have another simulcast with the same show. It's going to be on Thursday at 11 o'clock. If you just tuned in, you want to get it again, go to the Thursday. It'll be on at 11. I'll also be online. And until then, please stay healthy. And as Evan says, be kind to one another.